Welcome to our LB's The Lover of Books author chat. If this is your first time here, live or watching the recording, I'm so glad you found us. I've had the honor to interview over 65, I think maybe 70 authors, debut to bestselling, and y'all have really helped my YouTube channel grow. It has amassed over 18,500 hours, getting closer to 19. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to like and comment, as this helps all this content find more readers. Now to introduce this scandalizing author, Layne Fargo has a background in theater. Are we surprised? Women's studies and library science. So it's only fitting that she now writes deliciously dramatic, unapologetically feminist stories for a living. She's the best-selling author of the novels The Favorites, which we're here to talk about tonight, They Never Learn, and Temper, as well as a co-author on the Young Rich Widow series, which I will be asking about tonight. And her work has been translated into a dozen languages. Layne lives in Chicago, where she's dialing in from tonight with her partner, their pets, and an ever-expanding collection of books she's definitely going to read before she dies. And I think we can kind of see those books right there. Welcome so much, Layne. Thanks for joining us.
This is a small fraction of all the books. This is just, yeah, it's a problem, but I will read them all.
I'm not ever going to say it's a problem. Ever, ever, ever. You kind of got my sneak peek, and not many people do. So I'm a kindred spirit for sure. All right, let's go ahead and get straight into this book because it's so fantastic.
Thank you.
Not a surprise. I'm going to ask this, but when did you first get the idea to write a book about ice dancing?
It was during the 2018 Winter Olympics when Tessa Virtue and Scott Moir did their very sexy Moulin Rouge program and won the gold medal. And I was obsessed with them, like everyone was, and also really fascinated by like how feral everyone on the internet was about them. Like they were just like, they have to be a couple. What's going on? Like there's all this speculation, all these articles. So that was the initial kind of spark of the idea. And then it took me a long time to figure out, like I tried to write a book that was more of a thriller about rival ice dance teams. And then I was going back and forth between that one and this like gothic romance, and neither was working. This was like during the pandemic, and I was so stressed out and I didn't know what to write. And then I decided to reread Wuthering Heights to kind of hopefully spark something. So it was one of my favorite books as a teenager. And that was when I had the idea to sort of mash up the gothic romance with the ice dance. And that eventually became The Favorites. But I was like, years before that, I was like, I want to write a book about ice dancers. I just don't know what it is.
So what was it about Wuthering Heights then that just sparked it and put this into action?
It's just so dramatic and so messy, and so like their emotions are so extreme. And there's also like Wuthering Heights has a lot of commentary on class differences and race differences and things that are a really big deal in the figure skating community because it is like a very white, wealthy sport. So I just saw a lot of opportunity to bring those themes across. And then there's also just in Wuthering Heights, the like partner swapping, right? There's like Kathy and Heathcliff who are together, and then, you know, she marries Edgar Linton and he marries Isabella Linton. And but then like they can't quit each other, and Heathcliff and Kathy keep getting back together, and then she dies. And like it just was so juicy and fun, and such a dramatic world to play in. And it fit with the skating world like better than I would have thought at first. Like at first I thought that was a pretty unhinged idea to pair them up. And then when I started getting into it, I was like, oh no, this actually fits really well. And then I've heard from people who are in the skating world or like the ice dance world who are like, oh, when I heard Wuthering Heights and ice dance, I was like, that's perfect. Like those go perfectly together. And I was like, okay, so I was not insane.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Jennifer says that Moulin Rouge program lives rent free in her mind. And I think it's
Same.
just fantastic. And I hope if you haven't seen that, go back, YouTube, find that clip because it is definitely worth watching. All right. So now you have this idea. How did you've read Wuthering Heights, you have started, tried a couple things, but now you're back to this idea. So what was it? How did you start it? And just give us that whole process.
It was a long and very messy process, as my writing always is. Like, I'm not the kind of person, I am an outline. I would say I'm like the worst of both worlds when it comes to like pantser versus plotter, where it's like I do outline, but then I ignore my outline and do whatever I want. And it's just a mess. It's a lot of like trial and error, I would say. So at first, I was trying to take the characters from my ice dance thriller and kind of map it on to Wuthering Heights. And I was considering doing like a dual generation thing, because in Wuthering Heights it's like Kathy and Heathcliff, and then their kids, who also are named like Catherine, and it's very confusing. So I thought about doing that, and then I eventually decided just to focus on kind of the core four main characters. And even then, I got pretty far in the book trying to make it more of like a dark and twisted thriller. Not to say that the current, like that the favorites isn't a little dark and twisted, but it had a very like tragic ending. There were like deaths and all this stuff. And it was just again, during the pandemic, I think we were all struggling mentally, and I just was having trouble like getting into that dark headspace. And then I went to see the Stars on Ice tour, came through Chicago, and I went to see that with my partner. And I was just so struck by the joy that the skaters had. I mean, obviously it's like a fun show that they're doing. It's not like the Olympics, but it just struck me. I was like, there has to be like joy and love for the sport, and like it has to be more of a love story and have a more uplifting ending. And we can talk about the ending. It's kind of controversial, but to me, it was a very uplifting ending compared to what I had originally envisioned. So yeah, it was just a lot of like trial and error, and then like things like that where I would just think I had figured it out, but something wasn't quite feeling right in my gut. And then something would come along to make me realize like, oh, it should be this. That's my process. It's a mess.
How long is that process for this book?
Um, like a year and a half, I guess, from the time that I decided to do kind of the Wuthering Heights version to when it went on submission. Although I had one more setback, which was right before I was working with my agent to edit the book before we put it on submission to editors, and I broke my elbow. My large idiot dog knocked me over, and I shattered my elbow and had to have multiple surgeries. And I finished the edits like before we went on submission, typing with one hand, and then was still, I think, in like a sling maybe when I was having, no, maybe I'd had it off, but I still had some sort of bandage on when I was doing my like Zoom calls with editors. And it felt very like, I was like, I feel like Carrie Strug at the Olympics when she did that vault and like hurt her
Like,
ankle, and
one
she was
foot,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like no pain, no glory. So it's almost like you're going to put yourself through this athletic just agony to get there.
Yeah. It almost felt like I'm kind of like witchy and everything. And I felt like the universe was like, are you sure? Is this what you really want? And I was like, yes, I'm doing it.
I will do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so characters, who came first? Did you first, wait, let me just go ahead and back up because I should have addressed this immediately. When you said Kat and Heath, after talking Wuthering Heights, everybody's eyes just went, what? Like some knew, some didn't. Thank you so much for going there. And just so you know, we do talk spoilers completely in this author chat. So
Okay.
no holding back. Okay, now back to characters. Who came first in your mind? Did a couple come first? And then just how did you decide who the other characters would be? Because those are so important for how you wrote this.
I mean, Kat and Heath, I kind of always thought of them as a unit. Like I knew it was going to be, as with Wuthering Heights, that they were childhood sweethearts and like went through a lot of tumultuous times in their relationship over the course of the book. So I really developed them together because I feel like they're like trauma bonded. So I had to kind of like understand them as a unit. And then after that, I think it was probably Sheila, the coach, who's not really based on, like, I know there's the Linton family in Wuthering Heights. There's like a Mrs. Linton, but Sheila's not based on her. She's just kind of her own thing. And then the twins, Bella and Garrett, and like thinking about them as, because I kind of had to know who Sheila was before I would know who her children would be and like what their personalities would be like. And I wanted to make especially Bella, who's like based on Isabella Linton in Wuthering Heights. Like Isabella Linton's kind of like not a very dynamic, interesting character in my opinion. Like she's just sort of in love with Heathcliff and then he abuses her and whatever. And so I wanted to have a character who was a lot stronger, had more agency, and was more of a like foil for Kat, kind of showing like the uglier sides of her, but also like they bond over their ambition. And so that was, I think like what really unlocked the book for me was Kat and Bella and their relationship and their kind of competition with each other, but they still do love each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, we weren't quite sure there for a while, but I did love how you brought that all back together. So, but what's very interesting about this book is it's not your typical narration. And what I
Mm.
mean by that is there's an interview going on. When did you decide that was going to be the central line through this book?
That was very early on. It took a lot of experimentation to get sort of the balance right between the documentary portions and the like Kat's narration. For a while, like when I first was writing it, it was a little more like a Daisy Jones and the Six sort of oral history where it was just like dialogue back and forth. And then I started adding in the like descriptions of the visuals that you would see in the documentary. But I just love kind of like trashy over the top documentaries and sports documentaries in particular. Like I watched all the ones about Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan and all that stuff. So um, I knew I wanted to incorporate that because it's just such a fun way to get a look into that world, to get a lot of information from a lot of different people instead of it all being from Kat's POV. And that came out of Wuthering Heights as well, because in that book, you know, we're not hearing from Kathy and Heathcliff telling their own story. Other people are talking about them. Oh, and someone mentioned I, Tanya. That was definitely an influence as well. Like the way they do what I really loved in that movie is they will like the parts where she's like this didn't happen and like they show it as it's like what the rumor was versus what actually happened. So I wanted to play with that idea of like we have Kat's point of view and she's never lying to the reader, but she's very biased. Like she has her own viewpoint and I wanted to see like other people who have their own opinions about her. And I don't think it's as simple as like Kat telling the truth and the people in the documentary are lying. Like it's all kind of true and false. And like it's up to the reader to decide what they believe about what happened.
So, how did you decide who was going to be a part of the documentary? Because I think each of them play a very important role to give us perspectives since we aren't getting it from Kat and Heath.
Yeah, well, I knew Kat and Heath weren't going to be in the documentary ever. Like that was, I always knew that. And then for a while, I thought Bella might be, and I kind of wrote a little bit of from Bella in the documentary, but it wasn't working. So I decided to take her out too, which then kind of creates the mystery of like, are they still alive at the end? What's going on? Um, the others, it was kind of like I was thinking more about like the perspectives I wanted to show, right? Like, so I have the official Jane, who's from US figure skating and has like the very conservative, like, these are the rules we have to follow. We need to have like decorum, all of that stuff, which is a big part of the skating world. And then I like Ellis Dean. I just knew like he was pretty early on because he's like the Nellie Dean character who's one of the main narrators of Wuthering Heights. And so they were in there. I'm trying to think well, Inez was someone I added later on because I wanted that like snarky, extremely online, queer kind of like Inez is, if anything, my self-insert. Like a lot of the stuff that she says is like what I would say if I was in this documentary. And then Francesca actually was not in the documentary until very late in the process. Like after we sold the book and everything, I decided to put Francesca into the documentary. And her lines were so fun to write because it's like she's trying to come across sugary sweet, but there's just something like even at the beginning, I feel like there's just something off about it where you're like, what is this just her acting for the camera or like, what's up with this girl? So that was a lot of
Why
fun.
did you decide to add her? I mean, I loved that portion. I mean, because it was such a stark contrast to the other parts of the documentary. But why did you decide to add it in? What brought that on?
Well, it was kind of, she was not a part of the big like sabotage plot at the end initially either. Like early on, by the time we sold the book, she was. Originally, it was just the Russians. And then I wanted to add Francesca in because I wanted it to be like, Kat really created this monster. Like we see Francesca when she's younger, and she is this really like sweet, innocent, hopeful, like lovely girl. And she comes up in skating, like seeing Kat and Bella and Sheila and like these other women, and she's like, I gotta be ruthless like that. I gotta be like a badass and take no prisoners and whatever. And so it's like as Kat is finally learning, okay, maybe there is a limit to my ambition and what I'm willing to do. Francesca is like kind of like Kat 10 years before, where she's so driven. And so Kat almost feels like sorry for her, or kind of like, oh, you're gonna learn one day, sweetie. I don't know. It just like added this flavor to it where it's like, I don't think Francesca is really evil or anything, but she's learned by watching these other women around her and kind of like learned the wrong things, and having that be an aspect of what keeps Kat from getting what she wants ultimately, I thought was interesting and like complex.
Well, you also had the Russian coach in there, which
Mhm.
gives the another world, another competitors not advice, just their approach on it. So why did you want to do that?
Well, that was very much inspired by a lot of the documentaries I watched to prepare for this. I watched all the like Tanya and Nancy ones, but there's also a lot of documentaries about the 2002 pairs skating like scoring scandal at the Salt Lake City Olympics. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but there were some like Russian coaches and like other people who were in those documentaries who just had the most devastating one-liners. Just like there's just this like dry, like mean Russian sense of humor that I wanted to have her like I loved writing her lines. She's so mean and so delightful.
Okay, so you mentioned Daisy Jones and the Six. So let's go ahead and jump into that because you do mention taking a writing course with Taylor Jenkins Reid. So tell
Mhm.
us about how that came to be and your experience there.
Yeah, so it was this webinar Taylor did in like 2019, I think, for She Writes University. And at the time that I took this webinar, I had had the idea to write about ice dancers, but I felt like I can't possibly do this justice. Like I'm not an athlete, I'm not a skater, I'm not in this world, I don't know enough about it. There's just no way. I was kind of like scared of it and daunted by it. And so I took this webinar, and I don't even think I was so much thinking about the ice dancing project. I was just kind of interested in what she had to say because I love her books so much. And she starts off being like, I didn't know anything about 70s rock and roll when I wrote Daisy Jones and the Six. I had to like learn all that to write it. Like she didn't come from like already being a fan of that or whatever. And so it just, that course made me think it was possible. Like that, it really gave me permission to be like, okay, maybe I can do this. Like I have to put in the work and make sure I, do all this research and really thorough and everything, but it is possible. So yeah, and then I went back while like later in the process, the favorites, I went back and like listened to the webinar again because I had the recording, and it kind of like helped me figure out a few things at the end too. So I don't think if I had not taken that webinar, I probably would not have written this book at all. I would have just been like too intimidated by it. So she really gave me that permission to try.
That is so awesome to hear. Okay, so you know nothing about except that you love it, like you're, kind of a fanatic about it. So how did you go about the research to figure out what you needed to know for this book?
Yeah, I was always like a Olympics fan. Like I just watched the Olympics and I would watch all the skating during the Olympics. But I didn't know anything about the technical aspects so much. I was very much a casual, like, I like this song, like that's a cool move. Like I, didn't know anything. So I did a lot of reading like skaters' memoirs just to see like how they speak about the sport and like the physical experience of skating. I read a lot of the US figure skating. They have a like official magazine, and there's an archive of it online, like a free archive going back decades. So I read a lot of those, which had interviews with skaters and coaches and coverage of competitions and things like that. That was actually one of the main tips I got from Taylor's webinar was to look at magazines from like the era you're researching, and also like if there's like an industry or niche kind of community, just to see how people within that world talk about it versus an outsider or fan. So that was really helpful. And then I just like YouTubed so many skating videos. And I would like when I was trying to figure out how they would do certain moves, especially when they do really complicated lifts. They do it so fast. You're watching the video and you're just like, all of a sudden she's like up standing on his legs or whatever. So I would do like really slow frame by frame and take screenshots and be like, okay, so she like puts her leg here and then he swings her like this. And so just kind of figuring it out that way. And then beyond the skating research, I had to do a lot of research on all the different places they go in the book, because like every place they go, that was like where the real competition was that year. I had like a whole calendar I made for myself of like where the competitions were and what time and all that. And some of the places were places I had been and a lot weren't. And it was again in the middle of COVID. So it wasn't like I could go on a fun little research trip. So there was a lot of like Google Street View and looking up, yeah, YouTube again. Like there are wild things on YouTube, like people who go in like elevators and like ride up and down in the elevator and talk about how the elevator works. But like if I was writing something set in a specific building and I needed to know what the elevator looked like, I'm like, thank you for making this weird video. Like I love it.
Oh, that is hilarious. Okay. So I love that she gave you the advice about looking at the magazines about I mean, Taylor Jenkins Reid. So what are maybe three cool things you learned that's sort of an insider's view that us fans who just admire costumes and song choice might not have known?
Um, let's see. There's a lot of really subtle stuff in ice dance. I won't get like too into this, but I talk about it a little bit in the book that it's like with other kinds of skating, it's like, you know, they jump and if they like land, you're like, good job. But in ice dance, it's very subtle sometimes. It's like can look exactly the same, but the teams that get the really high scores, they have like a deeper knee bend or they're more on the edge of their blade versus on the like standing straight up. And they're so it's like this really subtle stuff that if you don't know what to look for, it looks like they're all kind of doing the same thing, but there are these subtle differences. And then I learned a lot of just like things that you would think were like made up and too dramatic. Like I think probably my favorite was the I mentioned Ellis mentions it in the book that it's really tough to find like male partners for a lot of these girls. So like rich girls' families will like bribe boys from other countries to be their partners. Like this is very real, very common. They'll be like competing over like the families will be kind of like bidding on their like we'll get you a sports car, we'll pay for all your training and travel, we'll get you. I mean, it's just because the men are so rare, like they're such rare commodities. A lot of wild behavior goes on. That was probably my favorite like fact that I learned where I was just like, how is this real?
Yeah, first we'll get into Ellis Dean because he is his own star. But Pam has a question about research. So, did you interview any skaters for this book? And if so, who and how did it help you get to the story?
I did not interview any skaters. I just read a lot of kind of pre-existing interviews. And that was actually something Taylor talked about in the workshop as well. She said she prefers not to do interviews with real people because once you do that, if they tell you something really good and then you use it, they can kind of feel like you're exploiting their story or like it kind of brings all this. So I shied away from that a little bit. I did talk to, I don't know if y'all know Wendy Walker, who's like this incredible thriller author. She has a skating background actually. Like when she was a teenager, she lived in Colorado Springs and trained at the Olympic Training Center there, was like pretty serious about it. And so I did like late in the process, I had a Zoom with her where we just kind of like, she just told me all sorts of stuff about like, not, it didn't really end up in the book, but it was just fun to hear her stories.
Do you have to have an expert look over this to make sure that you felt comfortable, or were you good with just putting it out there?
I was good with just putting it out there. I was a little nervous when people from the skating world started reading it, but I have so far heard from several like real competitive ice dancers that like I got the details right. So it was a big relief, but
No.
I just tried to trust my library science training and like what a huge nerd I am to get those details right. And it is kind of a balance of like if something's plausible versus like obviously I'm going to amp things up for the drama because it's a book and I want it to be fun and kind of over the top and it's Wuthering Heights, you know. But everything about like the like techniques and the scoring and all of that stuff is like very much based in reality.
Well, because that changed throughout this book. We had scoring changes
Yeah.
and things, and you kept us right along so that we knew what was happening when. I really appreciated that. Okay, let's go ahead and get back to Ellis Dean, aka Johnny Weir. Okay, this character is golden. Did you know immediately who you wanted to narrate this? Because I felt like it was just a perfect.
Uh,
um,
that was kind of wild. So like obviously I based Ellis a lot on Johnny. I
yes.
grew up watching him and like there are certain outfits Ellis wears where I was like literally looking at pictures of Johnny Weir and be like, he's wearing this. And then when it came time to do the audiobook, I knew they were doing full cast. And the producer emailed me and asked about like ideas that I had. And I mentioned that it was my like delusional author dream for Johnny to be Ellis, thinking there is no way. Like he's never really done an audiobook before. He's done some acting. But I was just like, there's absolutely no way. And the producer at first was kind of like, yeah, we'll get someone who sounds like him. Like that's a good note. I can see the connection there. But like I was like, yeah, great, great, great. That's awesome. And then she just was like, you know what? Why don't we just ask? Like he could just say no, we probably can't pay him enough, but like maybe we'll just ask and see. And even that, I was like, okay, well, that's awesome. Like he knows who I am. He knows that the book exists. Like that's cool. That's incredible. Like that's more than I expected. And then he said, yes, and did it. And I still can't, like, yeah, it just still doesn't feel real in some ways, even though I've listened to his performance and he DM'd me on Instagram about it. And like, yeah, I just, now it's my delusional dream to meet him in person. So I'm going to try and make that happen, which I feel is achievable now.
I do think and I will say, I feel like this is going to be one of those nominated audiobooks. So y'all just need to have a whole cast reunion, and then there's your
That'd be
dream come.
great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
And I hope to see a very outlandish outfit on him because
Uh-huh.
it's just
He has got the best outfits.
so that was his first audiobook. I looked it up. I didn't see that he'd done anything else. What did you think? Like listening? I mean, was it just like smiles all around? Because that's how what I did.
Yeah, I was just kind of giddy listening to it. There were definitely well, not so much listening to his performance even, but before he'd even recorded, but after he'd like signed the contract, I would just like every once in a while just almost like wake up in a cold sweat thinking about like, oh my God, wait a second, like what is this line I made actual Olympian Johnny Weir say? He's got some zingers in there, like the one where he's reading the fanfic about Heath and Katarina. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Ate it up. Like I felt like he was like, I'm in my element, let me shine. So
Yeah,
um
yeah.
I thought I just could not picture anyone else. And so I'm so glad that they asked, and I'm so glad that he said yes. But I mean, not to shadow any of the other performances because it was all around a
Yeah.
fantastic audiobook. Did you have a choice? I know they asked you who you wanted, but did you have a choice for the other ones as well?
Yeah, for the other ones, we did more of a typical, like they gave me like a list of kind of potential people and I went and listened to clips of previous audiobooks they'd done and then ranked my favorites. And I think in almost all cases we got the person I'd initially picked. They all did an incredible job. Like Christine Lakin, who's the voice of Kat, is so good. Like she's just listening to her do the audiobook, it's like that is how Kat sounds in my head. Like she got it. It's so perfect.
I was just so impressed because I do listen to audiobooks quite a bit, but I will immediately stop an audiobook if I don't feel it's the right connection for me. And this one, every single one of them just kept hitting. It was just so good. And I will say on the LB's, Instagram and Facebook, it's just all around 5 stars. It's so fan. Yeah. And I love the audio too. It was
Yeah.
fantastic. Like that's what I hear constantly.
It's been outselling the other formats, which I think is fun.
You know what? I think it's such a performance based book. Why not?
Yeah.
So let's get into the music part of this book because it is really crucial as well. Um, first of all, if y'all don't know this, there's a Spotify playlist. You can go and immerse yourself in all of the music. But how did you choose the songs and why?
Most of the songs were, well, because this book takes place primarily from like the year 2000 to 2014. So it was like a lot of songs that I loved in high school and college that had a real emotional charge for me. And then some of the other ones I found through, like, I knew I wanted them to do a certain type of program. And so I would kind of go looking for music, like the one they do in Paris, that's to Mozart. Actually, I'd have my partner help me with that because he's more into classical music than I am. I was like, what's a kind of like boring Mozart track that they could skate to, but like make it sexy? And he was like, okay.
I'll get on that.
Yeah.
He needs credit for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any sort of hidden meanings that are special to you throughout this book, whether it be the music or else?
There's a lot of like sneaky Wuthering Heights references and like the names and everything. And like pretty much any there's Wuthering Heights references, and then there's references to like past skaters that I love. Like when they do the fever program and they're wearing the costumes with like flames on them, that's based on, for Kat's costume at least, is based on this costume Katharina Witt, the German skater,
Oh yeah.
wore, that like she's very much an inspiration for Kat. So I tried to get like little kind of Easter eggs just to amuse myself. There's like the games we play as as authors to amuse ourselves.
That's exactly what I picture because I remember that routine when Katerina skated like and you did the flames. I was like, oh my gosh. But again, I'm just a novice observer, so even us novices are picking up some of what you're putting down. So that was good. Um, okay, let's keep going. I did mention that I wanted to ask you about your Young Rich Widow series. If y'all did not know this, she writes in tandem with three other authors. So can you talk a little bit about that and how that project even came to be?
Yeah, so that was also a pandemic project. So the other authors are Kimberly Bell, Kate Holohan, and Vanessa Lilly, and we had all met at Thriller Fest in New York City in like the before times. And Vanessa had the idea for it actually. Like she's the mastermind behind it all. She had heard from her agent that Audible was looking for like short stories. And she was like, well, I don't really know how to write a short story, but I know how to write a novel. And if I got three other authors and we all like wrote different POVs, it would be like the same word count as a short story. So like, let's try that. So she had a really basic concept, which was about these like partners in a law firm who are all in the same plane and the plane crashes. So then their widows inherit the law firm, which I guess is like her husband's a lawyer and a partner in a law firm. And he had like told her this was like, he's like, we can't all fly together because like if the plane went down and then like, she's like, interesting.
Ready?
um, yeah, so we each had our own like POV characters, and we'd have these long Zoom meetings where we would kind of plot things out, and then we would go away and each write a chapter a week, and then read each other's work and give notes and kind of make sure everything matched up, and then move on to the next like 4 chapter section of the book, which is a really fast way to write. Like we wrote both of the two that are out now, we wrote in like 10 weeks or something. I mean, it was just, which is not, I mean, as I just described, my usual process takes a lot longer. So it was really fun. It was like a nice distraction during the pandemic. And it also gave me, like, quite frankly, it paid my mortgage so that I could work on the favorites because I had left my day job. With long story, but it was like the thing that sustained me in order to be able to like give the favorites the time and attention that it needed to become what it is. So yeah, we released 2 with Audible, and then Sourcebooks picked up the print rights. The second one actually just came out in paperback on the 8th of April. And then I have left the series now, but the other 3 ladies are continuing. There's going to be more books. So if you're interested in following, definitely check out like my co-authors, and Vanessa's like her Instagram is so much fun. And she's going to have all the updates on when things are happening with that.
Yeah, I was actually messaging with Vanessa beforehand, and she just wanted to say congratulations. She was hoping to make it tonight, but she is having dinner with Geneva Rose. So
Oh,
on
that's a good
her
excuse.
tour, so very exciting stuff. And her book, we just talked to Geneva
Mhm.
last, I guess, a couple weeks ago.
I
So
saw they were at a bookstore today and Geneva's blurb is on the cover. And so Geneva was like signing the Widow's books too, which I love. I'm like, do it, girl. She's so good at her sneaky signings.
oh, I love the sign. Oh, it's
Yeah.
hilarious. She is really hilarious. But so what did you take from that? I mean, obviously it gave you a financial source so you could keep writing this one, but did you take anything else? Because writing can be pretty solitary.
Yeah, it was, I think the thing I took away from it most, I mean, I definitely learned a lot about kind of like craft and pacing and like from all of them, because all four of us, we have our own like strengths, and it was really cool to work so closely and get their notes and everything. But I think the main thing I took was from Vanessa. She was always the one in our meetings who was like, wait, let's make it crazier. Let's make it more over the top. Let's make it more fun. And just that sense of like playfulness and joy and like, why not just have a crazy like yacht chase or whatever? Like she was just always pushing it. And I brought a lot of that into the favorites, and like I want to bring it into future books too, because it's like, you know, we're making up these imaginary worlds, imaginary people, like let's just have fun and go all the way with it. So she was really inspiring in that way, and many others. I love Vanessa so much.
Well, Jennifer just asked a great question at the exact right time because she says, what are your thoughts or feelings about dipping into romance since you've primarily written thriller books? And are there other genres you'd like to dip your feet into? And you did mention like this was almost goth. This was almost like scary ending, and you decided to switch and make it a little bit more joyful. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say first of all, I don't really consider the favorites a romance. I consider it more like women's fiction, book club fiction, because it's more about Kat's like journey to self-actualization than it is about I mean, their relationship is a really big part of it. But I always think of it like in a romance, like in order to kind of heal and be their best selves, it's like the relationship is facilitating that. And with Kat and Heath, it's like the relationship is keeping them from that, and they actually need to be apart and like figure out who they are on their own. And then at the end, they do come back together in a way, but that time apart was really important. And I think if they had stayed in love or, yeah, I don't know. So I don't really think of it as a romance. And I know some people go in with that expectation and are like, what's going on? These people are terrible. And I'm like, yes, they are.
Surprise.
um, but I think I'm gonna stay in this sort of like women's fiction, book club fiction wheelhouse for the time being. I really love the like research aspect of it and like world building aspect of like what I did in the favorites. I enjoyed that so much. So I think that's something that I'm going to carry through. But I am again with the chaotic approach to writing. I don't really know what genre anything is when I'm writing it. Like I just have so many different influences and things I'm bringing to it. I just like throw it all in there and see what works, and then let the publisher decide what shelf it sits on.
Well, I almost missed this extremely important question in the chat box, and I want to give it the attention that it needs. Allison wants to know, what is your lipstick color? It's on point, and can we know the brand and color? And I have seen lots of thumbs up and following by Ginger. So
Yes.
we will.
So this is, first of all, I love lipstick, and I always like pick a lipstick that's kind of associated with each of my books, like for all the events that I do. So this is my one for the favorites, and it's YSL The Bold in Uninhibited Flame is the name of it. And it is like my favorite. It feels like nothing on your lips, and you can eat like you could eat like freaking chicken wings, and this would not budge. It's incredible.
Stays after chicken wings.
Yeah.
Shut up. I'm getting some. That's awesome. All right. Yeah. O'Brien said the end of the book was a total surprise. I really thought something horrible had happened to Heath and had died up until the end. I know you mentioned that there was a conscious decision not including Kat, Bella, or Heath in that documentary for that reason. Tell us about it.
I mean, he did die originally. Like that's the truth. Like it was the same thing where it's like he collapses on the ice and everything, but he like didn't make it. So, and then in the original version, before I'd really developed Bella as a character, she was more like the Francesca character, and she was involved in the sabotage. And the ending of the book originally was like her and Kat at the house in Illinois, and Kat's like luring her out to skate on the frozen lake, knowing that it's gonna crack. So she was gonna like kill Bella for what she did to Heath. That was the original ending.
Dang, ruthless.
I know. I can do it. I can
Ruthless.
do it.
Okay, that's this is another great follow-up question. Ginger wants to know if you'll ever return to the ice dancing world for another book, or maybe some other performing skating or ice skating related in another way.
I would like to. I have an idea for not exactly a sequel, but sort of a follow-up book. I think it won't be like, it's definitely not going to be my next one. I don't want to get pigeonholed as like just writing about ice dancers, but I do have more ideas in the world. And I have done so much research, I may as well keep using it, right?
Absolutely. Is that still hush hush what those ideas are since it's not even your next book, or is that
Yeah, I'm kind of keeping that one to myself for now, but I will tell you I'm working on my next book so The Favorites was a 2-book deal with Random House. So the book I'm working on now is about a Broadway musical. So I'm doing a lot of musical research, which is a lot of fun.
nice? Are you actually getting to do some on location research this time because
Yes.
COVID kind of messed up that last?
Yeah, I have been, I mean, I go to New York as often as I can and I like see shows. I got to see some when I was there promoting The Favorites in January. And then like anytime I'm like have an excuse to to go. I think I'm gonna go again next month. Because so my favorite thing that I've seen on Broadway throughout this whole process is the revival of Sunset Boulevard. It's so incredible. If anyone has a chance to see it, definitely do. And it's closing in July, and my partner didn't get to see it when I went, so I think we're gonna go back just so like he can see it, but then we'll check out some other stuff too.
Yeah, Larissa is agreeing. Sunset Boulevard was so good.
Mhm.
Hey, if you need somebody to join you in New York, just let me know. I will come
Okay.
watch any show with you. I love Broadway musicals, and sometimes I am dragging my husband along. But
Yeah.
please, please, I will sign up for it. All right, team, y'all get the chance to ask Layne a question. While you're getting those together, I'm going to do a quick round of rapid fire questions. Are you ready, Layne?
Mhm.
All right. Are you a morning glory or a nightshade?
Uh, I'm kind of in the
You're like
middle.
either.
Yeah, honestly, neither. I used to be very much a nightshade. I would like in grad school, I stayed up till crazy hours, but I'm pretty like, middle of the road now. Like not too early or too late.
Same, same. All right. Where do you write best?
In my office, I have like a cozy chair I sit in and with my laptop, and then I have like where I'm sitting now at my desk, I have 2 monitors, which is the underrated writing hack of the century, in my opinion. It's so helpful.
Double monitors are a must. And that's what makes traveling so hard because you're like, where's my other monitor? All
hmm
right. What is your best writing break? If you need a break, what do you do?
I go play with my dog usually. He just likes to snuggle, so I'll go like lie down with him and just like he'll nap sometimes with him.
Okay, you said he's big. What kind of dog and how much does he weigh?
He's a pit bull. He's like 65 pounds, but he's like real short and stocky. So the reason he was able to knock me over is he's like knee height and like battering ram shaped. He like hit me from behind.
You're completely healed. Do you like
Yes.
the research more or the writing?
Research, definitely. I actually hate writing. I love research and like plotting, and I love revision. I hate writing.
I don't believe it. What? My mind is blown. Is it because it's so hard? Or okay, I know this is supposed to be rapid fire. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm totally breaking into this. I'm breaking my rules. Why?
I just it's like frustrating sometimes, right? Because it's like when you're imagining it, it's this like perfect thing, and then when you're revising, you get it closer and closer to that vision that you had. But the actual writing, I mean, I think any author will tell you. I mean, I know a few people who write really good, like clean first drafts, and I hate them. But mostly it's like shitty first drafts. And yeah, so I just find it like frustrating. It feels like something I have to get through to get to the part that I like.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, guys, I went off track. What was the best skater's memoir you read?
It was actually one I read after the book was done, and I was like, oh, I wish that this had come out sooner. Gracie Gold's Out of Shape, Worthless Loser is like, I was reading this and I was like, you and Kat Shaw would be best friends. Like this is, she's talking about all the stuff that Kat was talking about. It's fantastic. And it really gives like kind of the dark side of figure skating, but also like you can tell how much she loves the sport and still does. And yeah, so I really recommend that one. Like even if you're just kind of a casual fan, I think it speaks to so much that just like women deal with in general.
I kind of feel like y'all need to be in conversation. I don't know how
I
we
would,
make that happen, but can we make that happen?
I know her editor, so maybe.
Okay, you asked for Johnny Weir and it happened. So why don't you just go ahead and ask for Gracie Gold? Like,
I might. I'm going to nationals next January, so she's usually there, and I know Johnny will be there because he'll be commentating. So I'm gonna make this happen.
nice, nice. All right. Semisonic or Savage Garden?
Savage Garden.
Your favorite scene?
The scene where Heath comes back after he's been in Russia and Kat like sees how good he is at skating. That was one of the first scenes I wrote, and it's still a big favorite. He's such an asshole in that scene.
To be, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. And do you have a favorite pair of ice dancers? I'm sorry.
I do. I'll try and keep this short because I could go on about them forever. But Madison Hubble and Zachary Donahue, they're an American team. They've retired now, but they won bronze in the last Winter Olympics. And they have the most chaotic relationship history, like hated each other, forced to skate together, fell in love, broke up because their relationship was too explosive, kept skating together while dating other people. She even like married someone else and then like won the medal. It's just wild.
That's a book in of itself.
Mhm.
Okay. I am going to open it up. Cindy, I am going to spotlight you and have you ask a question. Go for it.
All right. Hi, Layne.
Hi.
So I am just shocked that you are not an ice skater or grew up around it, because I grew up in Chicago and I skated all these North Shore skating rinks, and you hit it right on the head. I
Oh,
mean,
thank you.
like even like when you're talking about like the shape of the ice dancers versus the pairs, like spot on. I never really even thought about it. And like all the
Mhm.
brother sister teams everywhere, and all those elite skaters going off for the summer to do other elite things. I mean, you just really got it great. I just loved it. It was such a great trip down memory lane for me to read this. It's just wonderful. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Awesome. Okay. I am going to ask Larissa to ask your question. Go for it, Larissa.
Hi there.
Hi.
So obviously I'm sure you know the upcoming Emerald Fennel adaptation has some controversial casting choices, but if you got to pick the Kat and Heath characters in an adaptation of the favorites, who would be your dream pair for that?
I have a lot of opinions about its adaptation, as you can tell. Yeah. So for Kat and Heath, I really love Molly Gordon, who was on The Bear. I think she'd be a great Kat. And Brandon Perea, who was in Nope and Twisters and the OA. Like, he would be a really good Heath. And in fact, I have talked about him so much, he heard about it and slid into my DM. I was like, I'm sorry. He was really nice about it though. Yeah. And then if I were in charge of Emerald Fennel's adaptation, first of all, I'm like, why are we casting white men as Heathcliff in the year of our Lord 2025? It's not right. But I'm like, Dev Patel was literally right there. I'm really mad about that. I can't wait to hate watch it though. On Valentine's Day, like, what is she thinking? This is not, ugh.
You know what? Everybody, they're like this in the screen right there with y'all.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and follow up to Larissa's question. Is there any buzz at all on TV or movie? I know someone else asked this earlier, so can you give us any gossip?
So it has been optioned and then the option expired, and it's kind of how it goes. Like, it takes a couple tries at it. Hollywood is very much in disarray right now, but there's been like interest from my film agents kind of following up with other people who are interested. And we will see, fingers crossed.
So, do you see this more as a movie or more as a series, limited? How do you picture it?
Could go either way. Like, initially they were pitching it as a TV series and not limited. I think they were going to kind of like expand it out, but I could see there's just all sorts of ways you could come at it. So I'll let the people in Hollywood figure that out.
Leave your options open. Yes. And that has a great question here. First of all, she loved all the Taylor Swift references to the Red Era and using The Last Time, such a great song for the story. How did you land on the Red Era and that song? And are you a Swiftie?
I'm definitely a Swiftie. And it was really because that was like the album that came out at the time that like, because I feel like Kat and Heath are much more like Reputation era, but that wasn't historically accurate. So I went with Red, and I just like listening to that album. The Last Time, the lyrics are so Kat and Heath, and it's so like dramatic and sweeping and heart-wrenching and all of that stuff. So that song, I think also when I was working on this book, I would just hear certain songs, like even songs I'd heard a bunch of times before, and I would immediately start imagining like choreography and like imagining them skating. And that was the case with The Last Time. It was like I turned it on and I just could see it. So that was why I picked that one.
That's sort of what Heath does. He loves
Mhm.
music. He loves the choreography. So that's maybe a little bit of you in that character as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was something that kind of got amped up in edits. Like it wasn't as big of a part of his character. And then I was thinking about like if he's gonna stay as a skater even after he doesn't know if he's gonna be with Kat anymore, like what is it that would bring him back to it? And oh, I think I can actually say this now. So for the paperback, they had me write some bonus stuff from Heath's point of view. So part of it has been released just to a few like influencers in the UK. My UK publisher kind of sent it out as a little treat for some of the people who had supported the book. But when the paperback comes out, it'll be more broadly available, and it covers like his time in Russia and then his time in between Vancouver and when he and Kat start skating together again. So you get a little insight into what he was up to then.
A little midnight sun is what you're telling us, huh?
Mhm.
All right. I will say when you were talking Taylor Swift, I'm pretty sure Victoria was pretty excited on that comment.
Oh,
All
and
right.
the Heath stories have playlists that go with them too, and there is a Taylor Swift song on one of the playlists, so you have to wait and see which one.
Oh my
It's coming out
God, so many
September
Easter
30th.
eggs. This is another comparison. Like, talk about English class. We need to add you in on those Taylor Swift classes. All right. So when is the paperback coming out?
September 30th.
When?
September 30th.
September 30th. Okay. And will you be touring with the paperback?
I don't know yet. I need to talk to my publisher about that. I think everything feels so uncertain right now in the world. No one wants to commit to anything, but I hope so.
Well, I know us fans would love to see you across the US. I'm here in North Carolina just to put a vote in here, but I'm sure everybody on this call would love to have you in their region. So hopefully it works out.
One of my best friends lives in North Carolina, and I haven't seen her in years, so I've been trying to get down
What
there.
part? What part of North
Oh,
Carolina?
like Greenville.
Okay, well, I will make a trip to wherever in North Carolina to see you. Like, there's no question in my mind. This Texan will drive anywhere. So get ready. Okay. Victoria asked a very interesting question. I can't wait to hear the answer. If you could time travel and meet Emily Bronte, what would you ask her?
Oh man, I don't know. She didn't seem very friendly. I don't know. I feel like I don't even know what I would talk to her about. I would just want to like walk around the moors and like go to because that was when I was in the UK last fall, my publisher took me to the Bronte Parsonage Museum and I got to see like it was wild. They're like, here's the couch where she died. Here's like the table where she wrote Wuthering Heights. It was just, but it was so atmospheric there. Like I almost feel like I would just want to like be in her presence and not, she didn't seem like very conversational. So I don't know if I would want to bother her with my questions, but I feel like we could hang out.
The presence would be enough.
Mhm.
I hear you. All right. What are you working on now? Because I don't think we've heard too much on that, and inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah, so yeah, the Broadway musical book, I can tell you a little bit more about that. So it is following, it's like a musical that the original production was in the 90s, and it's following that, and also in like 2022 when the Broadway theaters were reopening after COVID, a revival of this show. And so we're following a couple different women who are involved, like the star of the revival, the director of the revival. There's lots of drama and everything. And then the musical itself is about, it's called The Vamp, and it's about the forbidden love between a female vampire and a hot priest. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. So I was like, I want to write about hot priests and I want to write about vampires, but I'm not like a fantasy author. So I'm not going to write about actual vampires, but they can be like singing Broadway on stage.
Yeah, you don't have to create the whole world, just the musical. Were you a Smash fan by chance?
I love to hate Smash. I rewatched it recently, actually, like when I was starting to work on this book, and it was such a fun show, but I was so like Team Ivy the whole time. I was just like, you cannot make me like Karen. You cannot make me root for Karen. It is Ivy all the way. Absolutely not.
I wonder like about that. If I went back and watched, would I change my opinions at all or not? It sounds like.
Were you Team Karen?
I will keep my mouth shut.
That's a yes. It's okay. I mean, the show like really wanted us to be Team Karen, so.
Absolutely. It was like trying to shove us into that. Yeah.
Okay, I keep seeing comments about the cutting edge. Someone had a question about the cutting edge.
Yes. I assume you've watched it. Topic Was that one of your main watches prior to this book?
Not prior. I actually had not seen The Cutting Edge until I was working on not so much of the favorites, but like when I was trying to write that ice dance thriller beforehand, I was like watching all the ice dance and ice skating movies. But of course I love it. I just didn't see it at like the optimal age to see it, I don't think.
Yeah, it's probably before. Yeah, Maura Kelly, like
Mhm.
that. I don't remember what year that came out, but I'm sure it was
In
before.
the 80s. But I made the whole thing where like Heath is on the kind of Pee Wee hockey team, and that's why he's at the skating rink. It meets Cat. That was totally a Cutting Edge reference. I was like, somebody has to be a hockey player.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I absolutely loved that movie. And just that attitude of, you know, that she carries. There was so much of that in your book too, which I think is, I'm sure, very much prevalent still today. I did love that you also brought up the class difference, like we got in I, Tanya as well, because I mean, what was she? I think they pretty much killed some animals for her to have her fur coat.
Her fur coat, yeah. There
So
is so much of that in skating where it's just you're supposed to. What was interesting to me actually was in researching Tanya and Nancy and like learning things I didn't know as a kid, is that Nancy Kerrigan comes from a really blue collar background as well, but she was much better at kind of presenting as this like glamorous ice princess, like refined, like so she was presenting, even though she didn't actually come from money, she was presenting this image that the judges wanted to see. And Tanya was like kind of unwilling or unable to play that game. She just wanted to be purely an athlete. And I think Tanya would have done a lot better as a skater in like the current day. There's a lot more appreciation for that kind of athleticism in women's skating.
absolutely. And you kind of approach this a little bit at the end when the IOC, you know, they're in this conference room making decisions on careers basically.
Mhm.
And Tanya, I mean, I say Tanya Harding lost her ability to earn
Yeah.
money, you know? And so it's just, I mean, I don't know of any other sport that does it quite to that extreme as what happened to her, but
Yeah, it's a very insular world, like in it can be good or bad, but it's they like punish people who step out of line for sure.
absolutely. I do hope that it hits the movie or the screen. I mean, that motorcycle coast riding scene, I had like Top Gun,
Yeah.
a little bit of feels there, blood on the bed, costumes ruined, sequins on ice. I mean, this is just epic. We're just ready for that to hit some form of screen.
I
So
hope so.
we'll keep our fingers crossed. Any gold medals that you want to give out tonight for thank yous or just, you know, sounds like, you know, Taylor Jenkins Reid deserves one.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
a Wendy
Johnny Weir.
Walker. Yeah.
Give Johnny Weir a gold medal. He never got one at the Olympics and he deserves one. So
Yeah, he definitely deserves it. Well, thank you so much for joining. It's just been such a delight to have you on, and I do hope that you get that tour because we would all love to see you. Make sure you're checking out her Instagram, her website, and also she has a newsletter for exclusive bonus content. So you may want to do that as well. You definitely want to do that. Yes.
yeah, I'm gonna be sharing some like tidbits, especially about the like Heath POV stuff there that I won't share on Instagram. I'm trying to like move away from Instagram and more to the newsletter. We'll see how that goes, but definitely sign up for that if you're interested.
Definitely. All right. Also, if y'all can follow me, LB the Lover of Books. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can find reviews, recommendations, and of course, more author chats. But coming up in May, we have American Asian Pacific Islanders Month, and I definitely want to give some attention and spotlight to that. So in 2 weeks, we're going to be joining Susan Liu, and she's going to discuss her emotionally raw memoir about the crumbling of the American dream and the daughter of refugees who searches for the answers after her mother dies during plastic surgery. The Manicurist's Daughter was named one of NPR's books we love in 2024, and I know you're going to add it to your own list in 2025. So make sure you read that in time. Then in 2 more weeks after that, on the 19th of May, we're going to zoom in with debut author Carissa Chen to discuss Homeseeking. This was a GMA book club pick and a December book of the month. So she's also, just like the favorites, a book of the month pick. And this was recommended, y'all, I think just about by every major newspaper across the US. So I couldn't even list them because it would take another hour. It's an epic and intimate tale of one couple across 60 years as world events pull them together and apart, illuminating the Chinese diaspora and exploring what it means to find home far from your homeland. This book will take you a tad bit longer to read. So it is a longer book. So make sure you give it the time it deserves, because it definitely is worth it. If you know of an author that you would like to chat with, let me know. And as always, leave, what you like, what you didn't, and we'll keep on keeping on this. Readers out there, thank y'all so much for joining. I'm going to go ahead and thank Taylor Jenkins Reid for giving Layne the confidence to go into this topic, because thank you. Like, we are so pumped about this. I'm so glad you went back and reread Wuthering Heights, and that you abandoned thousands of words to start working on.
So many words, y'all. So many words.
Easy. Like, we know now you don't even like doing it, and you're just dumping it. So is anything going to happen to that, or is that just gone?
I think it's gone. I mean, some of the stuff ended up in the favorites, like especially their house by the lakeshore was very much from my Gothic book. It's like based on a real place, like north of Chicago. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like it all comes around and you end up using it in ways you don't expect. But I think those books are officially dead. That's just how it goes sometimes.
Well, you've won over so many fans. We appreciate your partner accompanying you to all those skating performances. Cindy said, we love your descriptions. Like, it was so natural. I would have assumed you had that background as well. And I especially want to thank all the narrators on this amazing book. I will be nominating it, I know, for one of my top 2025 audiobooks and books. And yes, you heard correctly, figure skater and commentary, Johnny Weir. He did a phenomenal job. So if y'all haven't, if you just read it, this is the time to go back for all those Easter eggs in the audiobook. Thank you so much, Layne. This was such a delight. And I hope to meet you in person someday. And I really hope you get to meet Johnny Weir and in person. Like that. I wish for that even for you. So that would be awesome. But good night, everybody. I hope y'all have a wonderful night, and I'll see y'all May 5th.
Thank you. Thanks for your questions, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.